stick breaking black man hair. We don't hear. So don't expect me to jam your prime minister. No, don't tell me. I stopped drinking bush tea for your fever. No, don't tell me. Cause you had to do it once, but you did it twice. Elections fun is you choose Barabbas in front of Christ. So if you notice your little daughter bringing home a grand, because Mother said she too was school inside the bittern. And when she bring home the baby father, the man is a tyrant just like Panday. Please don't stop me in the road to complain, cause I have nothing to say. My personal comments I will reserve. You get some moment to deserve. So complain to me now, boy, you got some love. You get some moment to deserve.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
All right, so time right now, it is 7:45, and at this time, we are expecting a call from Kingsley De Freitas to provide us with his commentary for today. All right, so Kingsley, you can go ahead and call us at this time. All right, so I think, so Kingsley was trying to call a little earlier, but it was before the time. So Kingsley, you could try calling now, or if not, then we would proceed with our scheduled topic. All right, so we'll go ahead with our scheduled topic. All right, so yes, we are back with you for another segment of our Activated Mornings program, commentary segment. All right, and we are going to be looking at the topic of youth on youth violence. All right, so not sure how many of you noticed, but recently, I think it happened on Monday, I believe. All right, there was an incident with a student from the Bethel High School. So I'm reading this story from One News St. Vincent. So it stated that the Bethel High School student who was rushed to hospital. So yes, it was Monday. So who was rushed to hospital on Monday, reportedly after receiving multiple stabs and kicks from a group of students. The incident reportedly occurred at Lower Kingston Park area near a preschool between 3:30 and 3:45. The student, whose name was withheld at the time, is reported to have received several stabs in her back and kicks about her body, including in the chest area. The stabs were not life-threatening. All right. The circumstances around the incident are not yet clear, but One News understands that a group of students might have been involved in the stabbing. The affected student was rushed to hospital by a civilian, and One News says that they're tracking the story and they would bring more details. All right, but the issue has raised concerns about violence amongst adolescents. And for me, this is troubling to hear. I suppose whenever we hear of like fighting happening, or maybe stabbing or being kicked or whatever, you would more associate it happening with a boy, with a male, as opposed to a female, right? And to me, it raises again, one of those situations where I'm not sure if the group of students who probably did the kicking might have been more male than female, or if it was females, but it raises a serious issue in terms of, again, amongst our young people, how it is they choose to settle conflicts. And to me, it's a little bit brazen. I know that when we were going to school, like fighting in the street, especially in the school uniform, was not going to happen. All right. Because you already have a quote unquote target on your back just by wearing your school uniform. And you don't want to be, you know that you are going to be hauled into the principal's office because persons are able to identify your uniform. And then you could sort of get down to figuring out who these students were involved in the particular incident, right? But it is concerning that, number one, the fight happened, the incident happened. Number two, that stabs were involved. Now, I know that the article said that the stabs were not life-threatening, but I find young people, or people in general, but young people in the quote-unquote slight innocence, in a sense, where they are not aware of the possible consequences of their actions. Because although these stabs are not life-threatening, all it would have taken was just one fatal blow or one fatal stab for there to have possibly been a situation of murder or maybe even attempted murder. Yeah.
It's interesting as well, because when I saw this one, you were mentioning the female thing there. I went back to this one we saw of the little girl at in the country school who was, being given all these blows by this particular young man. And it was shocking to me looking at this story to see it's a young lady. As you said, normally when we see these things, it's mostly males. But what I have observed now, and even when I was in the primary school still, it's like men are becoming, to me, they're not looking. I don't even know how to describe it, but this sort of, because it's always been a struggle, but this sort of respect that some boys had for girls before, like you would play rough with your male friends and you would do whatever with your male friends, but when it comes to a girl, even though she does something a little rough to you, you would not behave like this. I find that is slowly just going away, and now the men are like, everybody's on level playing field. I don't care. We're all on level playing field, and I feel like men are definitely losing a lot of respect for women. We see this in the adults, and the thing about it being in the adults is the children are looking at the adults and they're learning from the adults. And when you look at a lot of, again, I'm not saying that it was just males involved in this, because I don't know, it could have been males and females, but I feel strongly like there were males involved as well. But I feel like the men are losing respect for women, and for a lot of young boys, their story is, I saw my father do this, I saw my uncle behave in this way, and I feel like it's okay. I feel like that's how I'm supposed to behave. And there are men who would tell their children, especially their sons, this is how you should treat a woman, and not in the good way. This a woman, all a woman is good for is this, and make sure you get a woman for this and a woman for that, but for all the wrong reasons.
But as you say that, they're losing some men are losing respect for women. A lot of it, sometimes I wonder if it goes back to the male ego, right? Because if a man and a woman I've heard men say, if a man and a woman, they get in a confrontation in public, and if a woman, let's say, slaps them, they're slapping the woman back in public, right? Now, I am not saying that anybody's supposed to put their hand on anybody, right? And for many men, what they say is do for do, right? If you hit me, especially if you hit me in public, I am hitting you back. And part of it makes me wonder if it's an ego thing, because are some men thinking, okay, so if she does this to me in public, what are persons around going to be saying? Are they going to be calling me soft? Are they going to be calling me weak? There are men who I know would take the slap and walk away, right? They would probably try to deal with it privately. They would not look to put their hand back on a woman. But there are some men, especially in the age of social media, where everything is recorded and everything is goes viral. I often wonder, for some of these young men growing up, is it a case where walking away makes me look in a particular way, right? And is it going to be the perception that you are weak, you are going to accept anything? And, it doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. Whoever attacks me or whoever hits me, they're going to get it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like that's part of it as well. Yeah, that ego thing.
All right, so we see somebody
Well,
Dave trying to call. Let's see what if he's coming. Hi Dave, morning. Dave, you know how long I said that? Dave. All right, then. All right, Dave, you have to try to call directly, please, because when you're listening to whatever it is you're listening to, there's a significant delay. All right. I do like somebody who's persistent, but this is definitely different. All right, Dave, you have to try to call us direct, okay? There is way too much of a delay for us to be waiting on you on air, okay? All right, so there's another situation where if we think that maybe this is just happening in Vincentian schools. Yesterday came across an article on the Jamaican Observer where it says Owen High students rushed to hospital after stabbing incidents. Another similar stabbing incident, all right? So 2 male students at the Owen High School reportedly rushed to the hospital after stabbing incidents at the institution early on Tuesday. Reports are that 2 students got into a physical altercation at the end of the school day where they traded blows and slashes. All right, both students received injuries but are not considered serious at this time. The incident comes after just a year where a 15-year-old Irvine High School student was stabbed to death, allegedly by a fellow schoolmate. So, the thing of it is that these incidents may not, like in our situation, has not resulted in death, but all it takes is just one fatal incident. All right. Yes. All right, Joshua, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are missing the point. There's an old saying, adults create and children imitate. I'm going to say a few things that might take me more than a minute and a half. If we listen to the leaders of the country in the Honorable House, we hear threats, and I don't want to call any names because we know they want to do it. We hear threats of violence coming out of their lips. You listen to some of the radio stations, some people project themselves as the real bad man, that they disrespect women. The lyrics we hear on radio, I would not want to be a young person today because I would be totally confused. I mean, mash them up, mash up King song, wind them back, the sort of things I'm talking about. What are young people supposed to do? They are looking at us. So let us not beat upon the young people. If anything, put the whip across the backs of the adults because we are the ones that set the pace. And I'm definitely disgusted every time I hear people beating up on young people. Young people this, young people that. They're only doing what they're supposed to do. I have a friend, and I call him a friend. He's a chain smoker. One day he caught his son smoking. Man, he kicked the living daylights out of the boy with a cigarette in his mouth. Why tell him about smoking? Don't smoke, don't smoke. And he got a cigarette dangling from his mouth. The guy wants to be like his daddy. And I always have to look at I got to be careful because it's our son. He always looked at me. And I had this bad habit of howling like a wolf, And one day we're in Hamilton, crowded street. This guy gets out of the car, put his head back and let out this long howl. And everybody looking at the guy like, And another one, which is kind of funny, as you guys know, I love women. I mean, I love women. And I used to look at TV with my son. And one day my wife was there with us, and we saw this scantily clad woman with the, what do you call the things?
Tong.
Our son gets up, runs to the TV, kisses one of the woman's butt and says, Mama, Daddy, nice butt.
Okay.
And I almost fell to the floor because my wife gave me a look that was. So you see.
Was that so? Hold on. Was that something that you used to do? Because how did he know to do that? Huh?
What do you mean? Kiss woman's butt?
On the TV screens, on the screens.
Well, no. I would comment if I see a woman that looks good.
Oh, okay.
Because during the summer, women go around here practically. Some of them wear just what is required by law. And if I see something, I would comment. And there's so many funny stories I could share. Another one, I saw this lady. We were driving in Hamilton. Tristan says, Daddy, look at the knockers on that woman. And all of these things are things I used to say when I'm with my son. So I had to clean up my act because when my wife is around, these things would come out and I got the licks for it. I don't mean physical licks, but I got the licks for it. So adults, we have to clean up our act because the children are watching us. Mm-hmm. Have a great day. And Dave, swallow your pride and reach out to me. Have a good day.
Why, Joshua? Why he gone? But Joshua, it's not matter swallowing pride too. And if you're going to do something nice to somebody, you just do it, right? You don't have to wait for somebody to tell you or ask you. Come on, Joshua, you know better. What's that?
Somebody was asking if we're not using the word man. This is a man, okay? He's saying if we're not using the word man in the wrong context. He said men don't hit women, period. Or he should say real men. You know, one of the questions a lot of women are asking is, do men really like us? You know, more and more as we live, it feels as though they don't like us. They say they like us, but the way they treat us, we don't know. And so for a lot of women, being with a man is quite unappealing. You know, they are happily single. You know, they ain't looking to date. They're not trying to get with anybody because I feel like y'all don't like us, man.
I came across this thing recently where it was saying that it's not a case. The messenger is not somebody who had actually wanted to hear a message from because he cheated on his wife.
I think I heard the same message. I got the same thing.
All right. So I see that Anita, I see that you're calling, but we're gonna have to take the call afterwards because we have a segment at 8:05. But I just wanted to quickly say this. It's not so much that women do not want to date, but it's just that they're tired.
Yeah.
Right? They are tired of the type of men who are there. Yeah. They're tired of going through the emotions. They're tired of being Bob the Builders. You know, they are just tired. So it's not a case where they don't want to do it. It's not that they don't believe in love, but they're at a stage of being tired. And I honestly wonder if the generation that's coming up now, they would have a true understanding of what love is, right? What it means to be loved. Because I think for many of them, their perception of what love might be is in persons who might give them material things, right? Yeah. They equate sex with love, and sex is not love. All right. So I think for many of them, there is this misperception. And, you know, if you have to go down the road of, in the case of the initial story that we spoke about, in terms of, let's say if it was a group of boys and girls together who engaged in a fight, it means that, I mean, like, where were the other friends? Like, I always have to ask, where are the other friends? Who is pulling off of who? It had to take an adult to step in to take the child to the hospital, but your other friends around, nobody is trying to step in to say, well, you know what, let's pull them off of this girl. This isn't right. You know, apart from what the actual incident is, you're doing it in public and all of that in your school clothes. It's like, it's just interesting times. It's just interesting times. All right, so we are going to head on out of this segment at this time. Conducting an interview with the Ministry of Mobilization in recognition of Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. All right, so stay tuned for more Activated Mornings here on WEFM.